Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, the 28th of July. Continue the little story of David becoming king over Judah, and as he tries to unite Judah and Israel. Remember, the 12 tribes had effectively split into two groups: the 10 tribes in the north, known generally as Israel, and then the two tribes of Judah and Benjamin in the south, centered around Jerusalem, and they were known as Judah. And it is David that unites them. But it takes a while for him to achieve this. And an interesting little interplay takes place. The commander of Saul's army, now representing the 10 tribes of the north, is a man called Abner, and the commander of David's army, those two tribes in the south, is called Joab. And in the battle that ensues, Abner, it would appear, he loses, but I think he begins to understand what God's purpose is, that David is God's man, and that the time of Saul, who Abner had represented, has now come to an end. And so after the battle, Abner goes to David and he begins to parley a truce. And Joab gets to hear this, but Joab is upset because perhaps his own power and influence is going to be lessened a little bit. Certainly Abner is a powerful commander and a powerful man. So is Joab, but he believes that maybe his power will be diminished. But also because in the battle, Joab's brother, Asahel, had been killed by Abner. So he has a little bit of vengeance on his mind. And he takes Abner aside outside David's quarters, and he says, I need to speak to you in private, and pulls him into a dark alley. And Abner is unaware of what's about to happen, and Joab stabs him and kills him. When David gets to hear this, he realizes how precarious his position is. He was about to unite with the 10 tribes in the north called Israel, and that is now threatened because their commander, Abner, has just been murdered, because the war is no longer happening. So this is not an act of war. This is now really an act of vengeance, and it is murder. And so David has to fix this incredibly important situation that he finds himself in. The lesson for me is that we can go through life and we can try and use deceit. We might say it's a white lie, and the end result is going to far outweigh that lie. But I suggest to you that nothing in the kingdom of God works on deceit or a white lie. So it raises for me the question, how do I operate in my life when I speak and when I interact with people? And also importantly, how do you do that? Do we do so with deceit? Perhaps it's deceit so that we can get that promotion that we wanted at work. It's deceit so that we can make some money or get our own way. And I think in the kingdom of God, I don't just think, I believe in the kingdom of God, that is unacceptable. And so my appeal today really is for us to examine how we live our lives and to throw away any deceit and lies in order to achieve what we want to achieve. Just very quickly to give you a similar example in the New Testament, Acts 16, 2 Samuel 3 is the latter half of 2 Samuel 3 is the story of David and Joab and Abner. And the latter half of Acts 16 is the story I'm about to share now, very briefly. Paul and his companions are in a city and they are having a profound influence. But they encounter a girl who works for a master. She's a slave to that master, but she has this ability to predict the future. And she runs after Paul and the team and says, these are men of God, and they are telling you the truth. That would seem to be a good thing, but she keeps it up so much that actually becomes an influence, a negative influence, and a nuisance. And Paul casts the spirit out of her. Her owners, who have made some good money out of her ability to predict the future, create a little riot. And then they go rushing off to the authorities and they say, you see this right, you see this civil unrest. It's caused by Paul and his companions. And the magistrates of the day, they're probably not very good magistrates, because they rush off and they arrest Paul. They simply believe what the slave master has told them. He lied. But it caused Paul and Silas to be arrested and flogged and then thrown into jail. And that's where the reading stopped today. So you can read ahead to see what happened. But we know they get out of jail for free, as it were, although they faced that flogging. A lie can get the church into trouble. And it's the way that the devil operates, by lies, to try and influence us and the world, so often against the church. So we as the church mustn't stoop to that same level. Folks, have a wonderful day. We'll chat again tomorrow. God bless.